As Tom just explained, we first started collecting general election websites in 2005, and we've collected every single general election since. And when before Brexit, we also collected the European Union elections and the Scottish independence referendum. So we were aiming to develop a corpus for research on the use of the internet for political communication over time. Now, the websites that we collected were collected during the election campaigns, and so had to be archived in a tearing hurry. So it was always a collaborative effort. With the British Library joined forces with the National Libraries of Wales and Scotland and the Universities of Cambridge and Oxford, who were all legal deposit libraries in the UK, and all dropped everything and searched out websites and set them up like mad so that we captured as much data as we could during the campaign, given that very often the websites and manifestos and social media did not emerge maybe until halfway through the campaign. So it was always very intense. And the resulting themed collections were described in the British Library catalogue and made accessible through the UK Web Archive until it was unfortunately met with an accident in October 2023, and it's been unavailable since. Now, the selection criteria that we used for creating these collections have remained stable over time. We've always collected candidates' websites and increasingly over time their social media. In 2005, they didn't really have social media. They simply had campaign websites. And we've since seen a proliferation of use of social media, from basic Facebook and Twitter onto Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and anything else they can think of to reach out to the voters. And Nicola will explain the complications that this has caused us for trying to capture them, because really the conversation has moved from standard websites to reaching out through social media. Now, we identified the candidates for the same constituencies over the whole period. Fortunately, in that period, there'd only been one boundary revision. The next general election will be very different because there's been a boundary revision and all the constituencies have changed. So there will be a break in the time series. For Scotland and Wales, they aim to archive the websites of all candidates and their social media because they're more manageable than England. For England, we've always taken a sampling approach, and we've had a balance of urban and rural constituencies in each of the English regions. So we, again, try for consistency over time. And using Democracy Club, we can identify all of the candidates which are standing in a constituency. And with any luck, Democracy Counts will have identified their social media and their websites for us, which saves us a lot of time and effort. So we archive the social media and websites of all candidates, not just the main political parties, and that includes the independents and the fun ones like the monster raving loony party. We have also, in many cases, we find that the local constituency website now doubles as the candidate's campaign website, though we only collect local constituency websites if they have electoral content. Some of them are fairly moribund and don't. And all that you will find is a promotion of the Hunt Ball 2 years ago. So forget that one. And we have selective news comment, trying to balance left-wing, right-wing and centre perspectives on the election. Selective because otherwise, if we tried to archive the lot, it would completely overbalance the collection. And, you'd never see the end of it. And I find the most fascinating one, the interest groups, because this includes all parties, from campaigning charities like Mind and the Badger, and sort of niche ones like the Badgers Trusts, the Badgers Trust, the Dogs Trust, the Cats Protection League. So up to the main national charities such as Save the Children and Oxfam, and Shelter, who's a charity for the homeless. So charities of all sorts. When there is a controversial issue, we try and gather interest groups on both sides of that. So for the present controversial issue of assisted dying, we would archive both Dignity in Dying and Right to Life, which is an anti, and Care Not Killing, which are both anti-euthanasia organisations. So also we archive religious bodies across the spectrum of all the Christian denominations, and Muslim and Buddhist and Hindu, if we can find them, particularly Muslim. They are quite active politically. So we also include the websites of commercial organisations like the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, British Chambers of Commerce, and of learned societies like the Medical Royal Colleges, Chemical Society, etc., etc. So interest groups are a real mixed bag, which we do try and achieve some balance of perspectives, though that can be very challenging. And we find these, I'm afraid, largely through scraping them off of Google, through simply looking for General Election 2024 manifestos, supplemented by an extract of the interest groups who we archived in the previous general election. Now, thankfully, Carlos, one of our web archivists, had by good chance downloaded a dump of all of the data from our web archiving tool, so he was able, in spite of the cyber attack, to give us that list. So that was the selection criteria. So we aimed to achieve a time series which would show differences in use of the internet for political communication over now 20 years actually, which represents all points of view. No one is cancelled. We may not agree with them, but we do not cancel them. And a balanced selection of English constituencies representing both rural and urban areas. And a very wide spectrum of political parties, provided that they're putting up candidates. So they tend to emerge from the candidates list. Now I will... the impact of the cyber attack was seismic, because we lost our web archiving tool, the W3 Act tool, and we had not lost our web archiving capability entirely, because we were archiving under a contract with Amazon Web Services. But we had to work on spreadsheets. We had to enter all of the data about a particular target, including the name of the site, that would be maybe the name of the candidate, a description of the website, the start and end date of the crawl, whether it was covered by non-print legal deposit, whether we had prior permission from the rights owner to make it available off-site, and which of the subcategories within the collection it belonged to. So we hope that eventually all of this information can be re-uploaded into our reincarnated web archiving tool when we get it, and the collection can then be published out. Can you guess the great problem that we faced in all of this, apart from filling in the spreadsheets?
Repetitive strain injury?
Not being able to do quality assurance. There is no access to the data which is preserved in the AWS store. So we're working blind. We cannot see what we have got. We may have the greatest collection of gobbledygook in the history of web archiving. We simply do not know, and we have no way of finding out. Our technical lead, Gil, did toy with the idea of letting us at it, but he said we might do irretrievable damage if we were let in there and accidentally delete the lot. So we have no idea what it is we have collected. Right, so also, of course, there's no public access to the collection until UQWA is back and the data from AWS has been uploaded to our main store. And at that point, Nicola will explain about how we tackled the social media.
Hello. Our first step was to determine which social media platforms we wanted to archive. And so to do this, we are basing this on the number of nominated accounts. We found that Twitter X was by far the most popular, making it a top priority for us. And, I don't know whether we mentioned that what was quite serendipitous in all of this was that we'd managed to secure access to a subscription with Browsertrix in the cloud, and we did this just in time before the general election. It was a surprise general election, but we'd secured this account with Browsertrix, which helped us out in lots of regards. But firstly, that we could actually see the content that we are archiving, and secondly, that, as you know, Browsertrix has a much better capacity for archiving social media content. So using Browsertrix, through trial and error, we found that a 3-minute crawl time produced the best quality captures for most accounts on X. But we were doing a lot of workarounds to prevent account blocks. And what helped was to stagger our crawls by 30-minute intervals. However, this introduced new challenges because we lacked the structural system for managing, scheduling and social media login credentials. So there was kind of a lot of manual work of sitting in front of Browsertrix, not too much automation for us at this point. To keep track of the various login credentials, we used a glorious spreadsheet. For Twitter, we set up 6 different email addresses. Facebook and Instagram had 5 each, and this is from our specific account, our UK Web Archive Gmail account. We checked these accounts weekly to make sure that we were logged in or out. In the main, we were logged out, so we logged ourselves in again, and our colleague Carlos helpfully set up different templates for us for social media accounts. So as curators and as the people that perhaps don't have the web archiving experience, all we had to do was select a template which was named Facebook or Twitter, and the crawl behaviours and the browser profiles were set up for us. They were already configured. But we also found that archiving multiple X or Twitter accounts with a single browser profile often led to blocks. So we created several templates with different browser profiles to distribute the activity. So from the curator's point of view, this was relatively easy. All we had to do was to take a crawling template, but perhaps adapt the exclude filters, because we had exclude filters so that we didn't follow other accounts, for example. Unsurprisingly, X was the most successfully archived platform, allowing us to capture all of the content that we aimed for. Facebook, of course, proved more challenging, but we did manage to at least archive one page with some associated images. This isn't great, but it's a significant result compared to previous attempts with other collections. And similarly, we had some success with Instagram. However, a year later, archiving Instagram has become increasingly difficult. There's a requirement for multi-factor authentication. So that's something that we will need to revisit. We have produced an overview of the collection, and this has been made in a Google Studio dashboard, which is hooked into our collection spreadsheet. So on this dashboard, we've got some really rich management information. We can see the political parties that we've archived. We can see here on the right-hand side in the top pie chart, you've got a significant red wedge and a significant blue wedge. So maybe we've got the balance about right there. As Jennie was explaining, we aim to be as representative as we can. We've also got some information about the type of website, whether that be a news website, it's political parties, it's campaigning organisations or interest groups, for example. So this is just something that's useful for us to engage with our users about the collection at a time when we don't actually have access to this collection at the moment. Browsertrix has a built-in QA tool that generates reports analysing the quality of the individual crawl jobs, and this includes screenshot comparisons and resource analysis. During our collection process in 2024, we didn't use this feature as at that time the QA reports counted against our processing time budget. This isn't the case anymore in Browsertrix. The QA reports are now free to generate and they don't consume any processing time. However, at that time, we found that to run a single QA report for a Facebook capture required about 30 minutes of processing time. And with our account, we had 100 hours per month. An alternative approach is to do your QA outside of Browsertrix, so you can download the WAC file, open that, manually inspect the contents. We use SEO tools such as a Screaming Frog, which helps you have a manifest of everything that you expect to have on the archived website, and compare this against the live site. Sorry, the Screaming Frog allows you to analyse the live site. So this helps you to identify if you've got URLs you're expecting to see but you don't have. That said, using this workflow needs a relatively modest amount of technical knowledge, and a lot of our users still prefer a visual inspection using the replay functionality in Browsertrix. This is a much more intuitive way to assess the capture quality. In terms of next steps, we are really excited about Browsertrix. The subscription model for us is not so sustainable because of the high costs and the amount of data that we require to archive. So we're working on installing Browsertrix on our own infrastructure when that is in place. And this will eliminate some of those concerns about the bandwidth limitations. We've also established a user forum. We're in the process of demonstrating Browsertrix to a wider group of curators and teams across the legal deposit libraries. And we've drafted a usage policy specific to our cloud subscription with Browsertrix and covering topics such as archiving within our legal deposit context. Currently, our data, so this general election collection data is still stored with Browsertrix's servers where it is secure. However, we're planning to bring this data back to where we've got our other crawl data on our AWS servers. So the general election collection, it will take several months before it's available, but we've preserved the content. I guess that's the main priority. So we'll be excited to have that task of regenerating the metadata when we can get access to the collection. Okay, thank you, everybody.